Hi, everybody. Welcome to my talk about how to optimize non-coding time. My name is Keren. I'm the co-founder and CEO of LinearB. I'll start with a short intro about myself. So I started my career as a developer. I actually wrote my first basic program on this piece of art. Anybody knows what it is? It's a single spectrum ZX 48K RAM, and it's the best machine invented ever. I worked as a developer for a couple of years and got promoted, and I did 2 roles as head of engineering for local startups in Israel. Both of them were acquired, one by AT&T, that kind of like got to be like the big AT&T development center, and one is CloudLock that was acquired by Cisco. And in 2019, I started LinearB with my partner, Dan. I'm going to talk just a little bit about LinearB, and then we're going to jump to our topic. LinearB, and it's part of software delivery intelligence platforms or engineering intelligence platforms. And basically, it's a space that now emerging from the motivation of, hey, R&D should be measured and should have standard KPIs, the same as sales, success, marketing, all of those functions have. It's constructed out of like those 3 pillars. I won't focus on all of them. We're going to focus today on developer workflow optimization. The good players in this space understand that if you're in the developer productivity business, you need to also ask developers how you become more productive. You can't just talk to managers all the time. The foundation to this, how you go about it and what's the right KPIs to measure are found in DORA and Accelerate. 2 years ago, Nicole Forsgren, Dr. Nicole Forsgren presented in this DevOps event, I think, when it was still live. And basically, it's a group that did like a lot of research on what are the right KPIs to measure and in order to perform better but not break your culture as a team. So moving forward in LinearB, just one more thing. On top of a product, we understand that this is an area that is still not a commodity, right? So you got to invest a lot of time and a lot of resources in also building a community. So we were amazed with just 1 year of a podcast, the guests that we were able to land. We have people from Slack, Netflix, Datadog, GitHub, GitLab, every company, and all of these engineering managers are really, really passionate about talking about what are the right things to measure, how do we increase developer productivity and avoid burnout and do all these important things. So this is just quickly about LinearB. What I want to talk now is about the developer productivity paradox. Remember, we're focusing on not on the CTOs, VPs of engineering, on team leaders, but rather on developers. And how do we help developers save time every day? And the first thing I want to introduce is the developer productivity paradox. And this is what usually happens when you're out of your junior phase. You're probably like 2 or 3 years in the industry. You're already helping other people to review their code. You're joining design review meetings. And the frustration that we always experience is that we only have 2 hours without interruptions in the day to really be focused on building code. The other 6 hours, I'm not saying it's not important, but it's meetings, ticket housekeeping, code reviews, which we're going to focus a lot of discussion about them today. Planning and retro, design reviews, etc. Now, here is the interesting thing. If you look at, remember the 2 hours and the 6 hours, if you look at the energy that is invested into optimizing those 2 hours that we're actually building, there's tons of companies that are trying to solve that problem. There's Github Copilot to code faster. There's Sneak to code more security. Terraform to code your infrastructure. Low code, everything. There's a lot of energy invested in the industry to optimize those 2 hours, right? This is one of my favorite quotes about optimization, about software optimization, but about optimization problems in general. And this is Michael A. Jackson, different Michael Jackson. He's a professor in Birmingham, and he wrote the most interesting rules about how you optimize software. And you can actually apply them to any optimization problem, but basically, I don't know if he took inspiration from Fight Club or something, but the first rule of software optimization is don't do it. And the second rule of software optimization, and this is for experts only, don't do it yet. And it's being funny because he knows that a lot of the times we try to pre-optimize code. As we write something, we kind of think, hey, if we change some functions a little bit, we'll probably get a code to run faster. What we don't know is we're actually probably working on something that doesn't make an important impact. We come up with more convoluted code that it's hard to read. And this is why Michael A. Jackson advises everybody to, before you go to optimize, ensure you optimize the right thing. So measure after you build it, and then decide what you're optimizing. Now, the same principle can be applied to us as an industry. Remember, we talked about this. As an industry, we're optimizing the wrong bucket. So we talked about the 2 hours in the day, but what happens if we would go and optimize the 6 hours in the day that we're like doing all those things that are kind of more bureaucracy and the things that are taking us time from investing in the other 2 hours? So we're kind of like not doing what we're preaching to ourselves. And this is the software, the developer productivity paradox, and why a true optimization to the 6 hours will get us much more time to be focused on our work. Now, today, we're going to focus a lot about pull request or merge request if you're a GitLab fan. I don't know, let's do a show of hands. Like, how many people here never worked with the pull requests? How many people here are working with pull requests every day in their developer workflow? So great. So this proves this statement. And I know it lacks data, and the reason that it lacks data is because there wasn't like a significant research that says 95% of the teams are using pull requests in the developer workflow. But here is some cool facts about pull requests. I don't know if you know, but 5 or 6 years ago, this wasn't very popular. GitHub was an open source community. Most of the enterprise software wasn't developed on GitHub. And pull requests were made in order to help open source communities that were kind of like distributed, not co-located, working in different time zones, etc., which kind of reminds us what we're going through now in the pandemic, right? So it gained a lot of popularity and got into the mainstream of enterprise software. I don't know if it was intentional, but the fact is there's a lot of that everybody is like using pull requests right now. And I would add another strong statement that most of, in 20 years, ever since the Agile Manifesto, that's the one thing that as developers we adopted to our methodology, or the strongest consensus that we adopted. We're pushing everything that say work Agile, work Scrum, work like this, work Kanban. But this is the one thing that as developers we choose to adopt, and we're using it. And let's talk about what are the problems with pull requests before we say it's the best thing in the world. Here's the problem. It's in a very simple manner. I just solved a super important problem. We talked about, production issues, an incident, or whether I'm developing a feature. Every time I do this, I feel this is the most important problem. I really want to push it to production right now. What's the problem? I'm dependent on other people, usually a busy resource, whether it's a peer of mine, a team leader, whatever, that I need them to review the code. Now, usually what happens is that a couple of hours later, because my peer is solving yet another important problem, they will be available, and this dude, I don't know what he's doing, maybe he's grabbing coffee or just getting to the office or settling in his space. So as you can see, it's a process that is very frustrating to the person who's trying to get the PRs merged fast. Now, if you try to look at it from the math model that's behind it, and thanks for Avishai to helping me and reminding me of the Phoenix project and the Q theory. If you didn't read them, go ahead and read them. Those are amazing. The Phoenix project is an amazing book. If you want to optimize to how fast your PR will be picked up, look at the formula. Your wait time will be how much busy time the busy resource has divided by how much idle time. So let's take two examples. If I'm busy 50% of the time and I need to review somebody's code, I will do 50 divided by 50, probably 1 hour, 1 unit of time. That's the time it's going to take me to help a peer. But if I'm busy 90% of the time, it's going to take me 9 hours or 9 something. So if you really want to optimize for PRs being picked up fast, the one thing you can do if you're only optimizing for that is make sure that everybody doesn't do anything. They just sit and wait, and anytime a PR goes up, they pick it up, and everybody and the PR issuer will be happy. But of course, that you're not just trying to optimize for that. You're also trying to optimize for throughput, right? Because the same people that are doing the review, they want to help like with the team goals. So the one tip I can give you is if you understand your whip cap as an individual and as a team, you'll find that optimum point much, much faster. So that's the one thing that you know can really help with this problem. Going back to how a developer looks at this problem, I don't care about all these models. I just solve a really important problem. We gotta push it fast. And as developers, we have good instincts because there's this thing called cycle time. It's part of like the DORA metrics, and by now I think a lot of people know it. And actually, if your cycle time is fast, if you, from commit to until the code is in production, I mean, it only goes like, I don't know, 2 days, sometimes hours, that's best. And it's the best, not just in terms of time to value, but also for quality. It's very counterintuitive because a lot of time in software, what we're saying, hey, we have quality problems, let's slow down. So what happens when you slow down? Developers are still developers. We're going to write a lot of code. So the next release will be, pressure will be applied in the system. Now we're going to release the big release, more quality problem. Think about quality in software almost as like riding a bicycle. Speed will give you confidence. Speed will give you like balance. Well, if you go too fast, maybe not, but if you slow down to stop, you're going to fall. So this is, as developers, we have good instincts. We understand that we need to push our PRs faster. It's not just something that we want because we want it. Time moves fast. Two interesting other approaches that kind of like trying to say, hey, these are major problems, we got to solve them. This is a very extreme approach from Keith Morris from ThoughtWorks. He said, PRs out. We don't need PRs. Let's use CI instead. And everybody, like the minute I read it and a lot of people read it, say, why are they mutually exclusive, right? We can have CI and checks, and we can have like code reviews. But basically what he's saying, trust your teammates, bring all the team to a level where we trust everybody that once they commit code, it's code that's been tested enough, etc. Now that's, in my opinion, a utopia. I've never seen a team that that it was working like 100% without problems, but it is something ideal that you can strive for. The second approach is more pragmatic. I actually like it a lot. They're saying, let's introduce 3 ways of merging code. Ship, show, and ask. So the first one is ship. It's kind of like what Keith Morris said. I'm not waiting. I'm merging the code. It's probably a small fix. You know, trust me. I'm merging it, and it goes all the way through the development pipeline. The second one is show. So I want your feedback, but it's not going to be in band. I'm going to merge it. And I'm going to wait, like, if you give me feedback 2 days later, maybe I'll enhance something. And the third is ask, which is like, probably like everybody here, including our team, works today with pull requests. So it's more pragmatic. And then, it's really interesting. These 2 movements gain a lot of momentum. But then the pandemic happened and everybody went remote again. So PRs like became more popular. PRs are here to stay. That's an important thing to understand. Lightweight reviews, the reviews that we're doing to each other, we're finding between 50 to 65% of the bugs. And the bugs that we're finding are the ones that are hard to find with unit tests and integration tests and all the other things, because it's the one that the human brain kind of remember, hey, this code path, don't remove it. I remember why it's here. There's a lot of reasons why, there's a lot of areas that the human brain still can be better. And if you think about it, it's the cheapest form of quality that you can apply to your software. A third reason why PRs are here to stay, look at this table. There's 27 million developers in the world right now. That's 0.3% of the world population. In 10 years, it's going to be 0.5% of the world population. And the world needs more software and more automation. Assuming you use it for like ethical purposes and you're doing the right stuff with it, it will help to solve a lot of problems. Now, basically what it means, that we're going to train junior developers and new people that are joining all the time. And then if you think about it, PRs are helping us in two ways. They're the quality gate that we spoke about it before, but they're also a great way to learn about what's important in this team. I always say to new onboards, if you have some idle time, go read PRs. You learn if this team cares about testing, about, styling, what are like the values and what's the DNA of the new team you just joined. So PRs are here to stay. And now I want to move like to a research we did in LinearB to show you some interesting data. And the research, take a step back. The research was based on almost 4 to 5 million data points that we had the opportunity to see. And we learned these interesting things. Oh, another thing that we did, we divided the day to hours. And if within 1 hour, somebody did a work related to the PR, this hour is painted as, okay, work was done. And if in another hour, work wasn't done, it's idle. And we learned that 50% of the PRs are idle more than half of the time. So they're just sitting there, very ineffective. And 33% are idle for 78% of the time. Again, very, very ineffective if you go back to the model and you think about what's the optimum point. This is how a typical PR would look like. I would issue a PR, then I will wait for a transition. A day will pass. The person will start read, they will need to reread it again, and now it's nighttime. Now I need to remind myself what I did. A lot of time pull requests are going for 2 or 3 days, and it's not good. Two type of idle times are affecting our efficiency with the pull request flow. One is transition time. Basically, it's really simple. The time I wait for the other person to pick up a PR. And it hurts productivity because there's a lot of hands-off. And there's another very interesting thing. If I'm going to give someone here 10 pull requests to review, at the first glance, they all look the same. I need to do like a quick assessment to understand if there's something small, something bigger. So it increases the cognitive load. A lot of more context switches. Distraction time is even more problematic because if I got a big PR that I need to review, here's what's going to happen to me. I'm going to read it. And especially if it's like more than 2 files, I'm going to build like a flow of the code so I can give really quality comment. And then somebody's going to ask me a question. You know how much time it takes people to get to the same cognitive state that they were before? It's on average 23 minutes. So this one interruption caused me 23 minutes of like reload of everything to the same cognitive state I was before. So I'll end up reading the same code 5 or 6 times and the same comments, and I'm wasting a lot of time. So that's the other idle time that we have. Now we took it one step further and we said, let's look at PRs that are going over 1 day. Then the idle time is like disastrous. It's like 81, 82% of the time the PRs are just sitting. So the best thing you can do to yourself is try to get your PR merged within 1 day. And the one thing you can do like to affect it, get somebody to review it in the first hour. If you do that, 90% that it will go all the way in 1 day. So that's a little bit of information from the research. I do want to go to the more practical area of this session and kind of said, what are the things we can do to improve this flow? So at a very basic level, the thing that we can do to optimize the flow is remember that if I'm the PR issuer, I'm working on something, now I'm dependent on a busy resource. I'm not saying that the other person is more busy than me, but in the context of this work, they are the one that I'm dependent on to do the review. And the wait time is what's going to kill us. So if I can take more work on me as the person who's already doing the work, we're going to shorten the time that the busy resource need to do dramatically. So W1 and W2 will be equal less than W. So it's actually going to take less work for the entire company to merge the PR. So I can break it into small PRs. I can, there's other things that we're going to offer, but I can kind of package the PR and say what are the risky areas and what are the things that will help the reviewer to kind of understand what we're requesting from them. And now everything looks like much smaller. The most important thing you can do if you want to get your PRs picked up fast is make it small. And make it small, it's two things. You know what happens in the reviewer brain when they get the PR? They do two things. First thing, we look at how many files there are. Then we say, if it's more than 2, we're going to say, okay, if it's more than 2, okay, it's in the queue. If it's less than 2, let's look at the changes are like 50 or 60. It's probably a 2-minute task. I can take the context switch now. If it's more than that, it's just now in the queue. So that's the most important thing. Like, you keep your PR small. The second thing that you can do within all of this thing is kind of like enrich the data. A lot of the times, if you would say, hey, this is related to this feature, it will increase the priority and the urgency from the other party, like to kind of like take it. If you estimate how much time it will take the PR to review, and it doesn't have to be super accurate, of course, if it's like missing by far, nobody will believe you. But if you estimate, I'm going to show you some real data that this is the most dramatic thing you can do, like to get your PR merged faster. You can also talk about the risk areas. You can also say, you know, there's a lot of test coverage. You can target multiple reviewers. There's a lot of things you can do to take more work on yourself to get your PR merged faster. This is the most amazing things I've seen. We have a feature that stamps every PR with how much time it will take to review. And it's based on an AI, and it's going to learn, you know, the relationship between how I work with my peers. And here's the results. If I'm going to say that it's below 2 minutes, if the system will say it's below 2 minutes, the PR will be picked up in minutes, less than an hour, 30 minutes top. If you go still in the area of 15 minutes, it's being picked up in the first hour. Again, because we all have like those 10 or 15 minutes where we can take some work, so it sounds very appealing. Once you go to the areas of like 30, 60 minutes, now it's going to take you 8 or 10 hours for the reviewer to just start reading your code. So the best thing you can do is keep your PR smaller, and if you can estimate your review, it will improve your efficiency dramatically. This was really cool. That's part of, like, again, the research data that we did. Another super interesting thing I've seen a team do, which was very creative, they send all the PRs to a Slack channel, and the minute somebody picks it up, they're adding an eye emoji, saying, okay, I'm taking it now. I started. Now, what's happening a lot of the times, the PR issuer, they really wants to get the PR merged, like we said before. And the reviewer start to give comments. I've seen this a lot of time that PR issuer is going to run. Hey, what can I do? Like, let me answer a question. Like, so it's not going to take us like 5 cycles or 10 cycles. I'm here. Like, talk to me. Let's get it merged really fast. So it's really interesting. And in some scenarios, you can make this async process to a synchronized process. If you would ask the issuer, no brainer. If you ask the reviewer, sometimes we still like to do it on our own. We don't want the interruptions, but this will save a lot of time if we choose the right areas where we do, where we make this process synchronized again, sorry. Now, we're actually good on time, so it's great. We want to talk about what you can do to maybe build something internally for yourself to kind of boost it, or use some free tools or commercial tools. So the first thing that I want to offer, and I've seen a lot of teams doing, especially if you're on the stack of Jira, Slack, and GitHub. all very easy to integrate to. I've seen teams, and I have the opportunity, we have in a little bit of opportunity to speak to between 5 to 10 development teams every week. So I've seen some teams doing some cool stuff. So you can make it very customizable and personalized. You know your DNA and your culture more than everybody else. With not a big investment, you can build something like that. Now, the pros is, of course, you can fit it to your culture, etc. But the cons is the intelligence level you can get to is limited. Not because you're not intelligent, because a lot of time you will get pushback about ROI and justification, right, from your team saying, should we really invest in this project? Are we making this something that is, a key project to us? So, but this is a very, very valid option, and I would recommend people to do it to save a lot of time. The other thing you can do, you can choose your Git provider. You can see the leading Git providers here. The pros is you don't need extra permissions. Like you already gave GitHub your permissions. It's already there. It's not like a third-party tool that I'm going to show you in a second. So it's a great advantage. The cons are it's single source of data. So like I showed you before, if I know the Jira ticket that's kind of related to it, it helps me understand the right priority. But if you're only on Git, it's hard to get all this information. And surprisingly, I had a talk in the booth early on. It's hard to configure. If I would ask how many people are utilizing them, I would bet 20%, 30% of the team are kind of utilizing those bots that GitHub give you. So it's not working out of the box. GitHub acquired Pool Pandas, if you guys know. And Pool Pandas was a great product, and GitHub, I think, kind of did the mistake of burying it on the enterprise tier, so it's not available for everybody. So here are the problems with those solutions. They're noisy. They usually use a public Slack channel. There's a learning curve. When you send a message in Slack, we're now at LinearB, we're optimizing every letter and every pixel there, so it won't nudge you, that it won't increase the cognitive load, that you can see immediately what we're asking you. So there's a learning curve in most of those tools. It's a single data source, that's the other thing. It's the same for every developer, and eventually it does not help to improve productivity, or at least not a big impact. This is what we build, and basically we call this worker bee. And the cool thing is it reduces idle time. It cuts all the noise because I choose what messages I want to get and what kind of actions I want to perform from my IDE or from Slack. And I immediately, when I get a review request, I get it in real time, and it will tell me, hey, this is the related feature. This is how much time it will take you. I don't know who asked me here, Sharon. So you worked with Sharon for a bunch of time, so it's going to take you, and I know the PR side, it's going to take you only 6 minutes. And there's more notifications that are coming, when my code is about to release, I would get a notification. So it helps me a lot, to take better decisions on my day-to-day, and it saves me up to between 30 to 50 minutes every day. Remember the 6-2? We're kind of moving it to 3 hours of building. Now we're taking it to the next level. You can also do stuff like, hey, if I just got my approval, I can merge it right from Slack. So we optimized for 2 minutes, right? I didn't have to go to GitHub and see the PR there and merge. But if you optimize a lot, things that you do a lot of times, even if it takes 2 minutes, it's a great optimization. The other cool thing is if it's a small PR, I can review it directly from Slack. I don't need to go to GitHub. And if I just want to approve it, I approve it from there. If I need the changes, I will be redirected to GitHub, GitLab, whatever we're using. So again, small things that optimize tasks that take 3 minutes, and overall they save 50 minutes a day. And the last but not least is the Holy Grail. It's a feature that we're about to release, and it attacks a different problem, but a very painful problem that I don't want to log into. If I'm a developer, I read the requirement from Jira. That's it. I don't want to log into Jira anymore. when I'm working. So now this bot will tell you, hey, we've seen that you push a pull request related to this story. Let me open a Jira ticket for you. I already know because I learned it's a bug or it's a functional story. It relates to this thing. We're going to add and connect between the PR and the ticket, and everybody's happy, right? Our project manager is happy because they don't ask us every second, what's up with this ticket? Is it done? Is it not done? Data hygiene around Jira is at high level, so managers are happy because now we can know where the projects are. And we're happy as a developer. I wish I had this feature because, again, it will save me a lot of time every day. That's it. I think I was even able to finish it in 30 minutes like you guys asked me. And if you have questions, we're in a booth there. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.